Hi guys, this is Wave 618. It's the 20th of September 2018. Just gone 5:15 in the evening BST. Okay, so this is an update on Bitcoin. A few important things I want to discuss in this video, so I'll quickly summarize what we're going to talk about. So first of all, what I've noticed is a very strong correlation between Bitcoin and in fact cryptocurrency with weed stocks. So that's something I've just noticed recently, although it's been a trend that's been apparent for many years. However, I'd never really thought to check it out. But that's important because it will give us a lot of clues as to what the Bitcoin chart is going to do. As soon as the weed stocks find resistance or support at various levels, that gives us a clue as to what will happen on the Bitcoin chart. So that's very significant. On top of that, what we're going to discuss is we're going to focus on the short term really, because price has been consolidating for a while now, particularly on the 15-minute chart, which we'll zoom in on later, and we'll explain the Elliott Wave count to explain what's happening right now. But yeah, I'm not going to dwell too much on the large account. Reason being is I discussed it quite thoroughly in my previous video, where I basically showed that there was a lot of resemblance with the 2014 crash. And just to summarize for any of those that are new to my channel, what we're looking at is a large WXY correction pattern. So it's a complex pattern, and so far we've completed waves W and X. So the W wave would be these three waves down, so 1, 2, 3, and then the X wave is a descending triangle, and the waves of that triangle would be A, B, C, D, and E. So this is the end of X, which would also be the start of Y wave. So Y starts here, and I'm projecting Y to come down to around the 3,200 mark. The reason being is that would be a 0.382 extension of the wave X, which is exactly how it played out in 2014. Now that's not to say that it has to play out the same way, but so far it's played out pretty much identically to 2014, so I don't see any reason why to question that it won't make such a projection. But certainly around the 4,300 level, there's plenty of reason to take profits for any short position. The reason being it's the 0.786 retracement of the whole move up to 20,000. But yeah, that's the macroscopic picture. As I say, we're not going to dwell on that too much. So first of all, before we talk about this positive correlation with weed stocks, I want to just talk a little bit about the shorter time frame for Bitcoin, because a lot of people have been asking me to try and explain what's going on. People are a little bit confused about price action here. So first of all, just going to put on a few lines and things that I've been drawing. So I'm a big fan of pitchforks. Pitchforks are essentially an advanced form of Elliott Wave, and the reason I say they're more advanced than Elliott Wave is because an understanding of Elliott Wave is so important in order to plot your pitchforks correctly. Essentially, all you need to do is when you've got your first two waves in an Elliott Wave sequence, whether that's a corrective wave or an impulsive wave, so you could use the first two waves of an impulse or waves A and B of a correction. Once you've got those waves in, you can then plot your pitchfork. So in the case here, we've got our first two waves of the WXY pattern. So your first pivot is placed at the start of W, second pivot at the end of W, and your third pivot at the end of X. Then we've basically got these trend lines that are automatically drawn for us, which delineate where price is likely to rebound off. And once we plotted our pitchfork, in this case, this was our first three pivots, we then got our first test, which was here. The line held really nicely, and I had been saying that I don't see price going above this level. It was around 7,400, 7,500. And likewise, I still can't see price going above this level. Should it go above this level, it would be concerning for the bearish scenario. So I really can't see price going above probably around 7,000 now. I can't see price going above 7,000. Any move above that would make me concerned about any bearish scenario. But right now, I don't think we need to even consider that. So yeah, just want to really show you that major pitchfork on the larger time frame. Before we zoom in, you can see I've got two other pitchforks here. So just going through the time frames, let's go on the 4 hourly. So it's a bit more clear now. So as I said, this is where the Y wave started. First test was here. Since then, we've seen a pretty impulsive looking wave come down here, and then we've seen a correction. As I said, you can draw pitchforks with correction waves also. So yeah, so I drew this pitchfork because I saw two waves being formed here, and you can see the upper median line got tested really nicely. Then we've come all the way down, and price did break out of the lower warning line, which would have captured a lot of people trying to trade to the downside. But then you can see price shot back up here, and you can see a lot of people, well, we were thinking about possibly the correction may have finished here, and this was going to be an impulse down, but you can see that hasn't played out. So I was looking at it potentially being a 1-2-1-2 pattern, with this second 1-2 being the start of an impulse move down, but you can see it didn't play out, and in fact the lower warning line of this pitchfork also, it did break out on this candle, but came straight back in. So it's a big shakeout, this candlestick here. We will go on to the weed stocks will explain why this happened. So that's why it's particularly important to understand the weed stocks and how they move. All right, so I'm going to break down this Elliott Wave sequence the way I'm looking at it now. So in order to do that, we need to just look on the 15-minute chart. Okay, so what we can see here, we can see a very clear double bottom. You can see there was a low here, and then price tested the low again, and then shot back up. Now, whenever you see a double bottom, I always think about, it's always possible to be a reversal pattern. However, I'm bearish, as people will know, having followed my channel. So I don't see this as being a reversal pattern. It's a temporary reversal pattern, but it's just part of a bigger correction. So essentially, I'm looking at it as a regular flat ABC. So the subwave count of a regular flat is 335. So wave A is made up of 3 waves, B wave is 3 waves, and C wave is 5 waves. So far we've seen our A wave, that's 3 waves, 1, 2, 3. And then our B wave, now this is more complex. It's still 3 waves, however, it's not an ABC, we'd call it a WXY. The reason for that is you can see it's not a 5-3-5 down. So it looks like a 3-3-3. Oh, sorry, this is a 5-3-5. So we've got an ABC connected by an X wave, which is 3 waves in itself. And then we've got a final 3 waves down. Okay, so it's 2 correction patterns back to back. So it looks like it's 2 ABCs connected by this ABC X wave. Okay, so quite complex. So we've got our A up to here, B down to here, and then what happens when B wave finishes at the same level as where the previous impulse wave down came down to, it means that we're looking at a regular flat pattern, and you often see a very impulsive C wave, which is made up of 5 waves, typically come up to where the correction retraced to, which is at this level, around this 6600 level. So it's around that level that I'd expect price to come back up to. Now we will have to zoom in a bit further on the 5-minute and perhaps 1-minute chart to break down this C wave, which is not very regular, and the reason is because the start of it was so impulsive. That's why we've got a really slow wave 4 drawn out here. So let's just go in on, in fact, the 1-minute chart. Okay. So this is our final wave up, the C wave. You can just about see it on the 1 minute chart. So you've got an initial impulse up, that's a wave 1, 2, wave 3 up to here. This has been a wave 4, and we're going to see another leg up to make a wave 5. So using Fibonacci just to explain this, so wave 1 is up to here, retraced to here, so wave 3 is a 4.236 extension of wave 1, and you can see wave 3 retraced 0.382, so the wave 4 is a 0.382 retracement of wave 3, which is very typical for a wave 4, and I expect it to eventually make its final leg up, which would be, we can go on the 15-minute chart to look at this. So wave 5 is typically a 0.618 extension of wave 0 to 3. However, in this case, there's going to be resistance around 6600. So it could go up to the 6622, 6622, or 6574 is where there's going to be a lot of horizontal resistance. The 6574 looks more in keeping with where price retraced to previously. So with an ABC, typically you get A wave, B wave, and the C will come up to the same level that A wave retraced to. So this 6574 is a very key level right there. That said, it's probably going to hit this, could well test this median line also. So we can expect this move pretty soon. You can see it's starting to curve out this bottom here. I expect it to make another leg up to around here. So that'll be where I'm expecting price to come up to. That's my primary forecast. Of course, we're looking at 1 minute charts, 15-minute charts here. Things can change very rapidly on these smaller time frames. But essentially, I can't see price coming above 7,000 up here. So yeah, that's my Elliott Wave count. So it's A, B, C. Simple as that. And now let's talk about weed stocks. Alright, so this is the interesting bit, something I've not really talked about before. And to demonstrate this, I would like to pull up this chart. So this is Canopy Growth Corporation. So this is the biggest public listed company for weed stocks. We're going to zoom out, daily time frame, logarithmic scale. So you can see already I've drawn a pitchfork on here, and I'll show you my Elliott Wave count in a moment. But this is dating back all the way back to 2015 here. So another reason why I like this particular stock is because it's got a lot of history behind it. As I say, it's a big market cap weed company. So just like Bitcoin is considered the benchmark for cryptocurrency, I consider this stock to be the benchmark for weed stocks. So I'm not looking at the smaller cap. There's a lot of talk about Tilray, another company, another weed stock that really dramatically shot up, made a lot of gains. However, I consider this chart to be much better to go off in terms of looking for correlation with Bitcoin. Now, just going to take the drawings off a moment, and I'm going to demonstrate the correlation with Bitcoin. So just pull up the Bitcoin chart alongside. So I generally use the Bitstamp data for Bitcoin, and then we want the log scale. Okay, so it almost looks like, you can see it's almost identical, isn't it, the way it's moved. And this is dating back all the way to, as I say, early 2014. So you can see, to begin with, they both make their move down. So this is, just to be clear, this is Bitcoin up here, and this is the Canopy Growth here. So they both move down together in tandem, and then they start their really bullish move. You can see the peaks at the same level, then we have a trough. And then all the way up to, they're both coming up. There's a bit of a pullback here in the weed stocks whilst Bitcoin continues up. But in general, all the way up to here, where Bitcoin peaked, and you can see Bitcoin obviously starts correcting. Well, actually, Canopy Growth is also correcting here. However, it's not a steep it's not a deep correction like in Bitcoin. It's actually formed an ascending triangle. So it's an A, B, C, D, E, and then it had an impulsive move out, which is in keeping with a move up in Bitcoin. So you can see at this point, Bitcoin starts to move up, and canopy growth also goes up. But the move was much more dramatic in CGC. Why? Because it's breaking out of this ascending triangle, and it actually forms a higher high, whilst obviously Bitcoin is still trending downwards. So there is a bit of divergence in the charts here. So you've got a higher high in CGC, whilst Bitcoin has failed to make a higher high, obviously. But you can see that slight divergence at the beginning of the trend. So actually, CGC made a lower low here, whilst Bitcoin made a higher low. Yeah. So at the beginning of the trend there was divergence, and you could argue now that at the top of the trend there's again that divergence. So the reason I want to really dwell on this chart is because I think that when we see this chart top out, it will tell us when Bitcoin is likely to drop below 5,900. So that's the significance of it. So I think I've demonstrated quite clearly there the positive correlation, so we can take that down. And as I say, this is the logarithmic scale. We're on the daily charts, and I've plotted a pitchfork. Essentially, this was up. Take the drawings off. So this is our wave 1. You can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 waves up, and then this was a triangle A, B, C, D, E. So as I said previously, once you've got your first 2 waves in, that's wave 1 and wave 2, which is the triangle, you can then plot a pitchfork. So you'll see when I pull up the pitchfork in a moment, you'll see my first pivot's here, second pivot here, third pivot here. Okay? And then you get your trend lines drawn automatically for you. So in this case, it's a modified shift pitchfork. It does require a little bit of playing around with. So when you've got your first 3 pivots, just bringing that to the side, what you can do, rather than drawing the pitchfork from scratch each time, you can actually change the type of pitchfork. So that's the original pitchfork. You can see price isn't really lining up with the trend lines. So you try different ones. Try the shift pitchfork. There's a bit more of consistency here, but still not great. Now modified shift, perfect. I really like the look of that. So that's why I'm using the modified shift. You can see it wicked above the upper warning line here, but then dramatically came down, tested this lower median line almost to the point, then went all the way up to test the upper warning line, come down, tested the median line, and I do think there is a chance of it making another slight higher high to test this upper warning line. That said, I've plotted some Fibonacci extension levels here, and the way I've drawn it is the fib extension of wave 1. So with the fib extension tool, I started it here, second point here at the top of wave 1, and extended that from where wave 2 finished, which was here. And you can see the price went really, the first time it really found resistance was at the 6.84, almost to the point. And then it comes down and retests the 1.618, which coincides with this lower median line here. And then the next point of resistance is at the 17.9, again, confluence with the upper median line. And now we've actually tested the 28.9. So these Fibonacci ratios, a lot of you are probably wondering where I've got these numbers from. So I've not plucked them from thin air. A lot of people are familiar with the 1.618, the 2.618 and the 4.236. Okay, but not everyone understands where these numbers are derived. The way they're derived is if you multiply 1.618 by 1.618, you get 2.618. If you multiply 2.618 by 1.618, you get 4.236. So essentially, if you multiply each Fibonacci ratio by 1.618, you get the next Fibonacci ratio number. So that's where these other numbers come from, the 6.84, 11.06, 17.9, 28.9. And you can see they're acting as very good resistance levels here. Now the reason I want to demonstrate that is if we just pull up Bitcoin chart here, you can see I've done the same thing here in Bitcoin. So this was our first, this is dating back to 2015. So this was our first impulse wave up, and then we had a regular flat correction. So what I've done here, I have drawn a fib extension starting at the base of wave 1, extended up to the end of wave 1, and then extended that price movement from here, which is the bottom of wave 2. And you can see, look at our fib levels now. They go much higher in Bitcoin because price shot up a lot further. But again, these are our fib ratio numbers. And you can see 3.618, it's not really a fib ratio number, but there was some resistance there. It is commonly used, although not strictly a fib ratio number. But 6.84, very good resistance. 17.9, very good resistance. 28.9, very good resistance. 46.7, very good resistance. Shot through 75, but 122 was the final leg up. And that's when price started to come down. So just want to show you the correlation, just how these fib extensions are acting as resistance in Bitcoin. The same thing is happening in CGC. So just a bit of food for thought, something to perhaps add to your game when trading these markets. But the Elliott Wave count, I would be looking at it as a 1, 2, 3, 4, and then this is our wave 5. The wave count for wave 5 is not very clear. Obviously you can see the main pause being here. So you could argue it's only done a 1, 2, and it's got a 3, 4, 5 to make still. But I've got a feeling I can see 5 waves up to here. And I think that might be our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So just using a Fibonacci extension tool, that's our wave 1. Extending that, you can see 1.618 brings us top of wave 3. And then wave 4 is an ascending triangle. That's A, B, C, D, E. And wave 5, let's do waves 0 to 3 and extend that from where wave 4 finished, which is here. You can see wave 5 is a 1-to-1 ratio with wave 0 to 3. So another reason why it's found resistance there. Now, I want to see, looking on the shorter time frames now, is this really the end of wave 5, or has it got another small increment to move up, which I think it may possibly do. So if this was the end of wave 4 and this was our wave 5, let's break down this wave 5. I've got wave 5 starting here. So let's have a look at this. So if this is our wave 5, it's got to be made up of 5 waves too. So that's wave 1 up to here. Wave 3 comes up to the 6.84. Okay. So I've got a feeling this was only our wave 3. We may have a wave 4 and 5 to take us a bit higher. And so far that wave 3 has retraced, I believe it's 50%. Yeah, it's retraced 50%. Very nicely bounced off that. Typical for a wave 4. So this could just be a wave 4, and we're going to see a smaller move up. I expect it to shoot down rapidly, so it's going to be like a wick, which will probably close around this level on the daily time frame. Now this wave 4, has it finished here, or is it going to make a regular flat? It could make a regular flat, in that it could be an A, B, C. Best way to look at it, let's zoom in. Even further, hourly. So really here I see 3 waves down, so potentially that could be the end of wave 4. But then this doesn't look too, it could be impulsive up here, it's hard to tell. But with a regular flat you get 3 waves down, 3 waves up, and then an impulsive move down, 5 waves down to come down to where A came down to. So it could come down to here and then make a higher high. or it could just go up and make it its higher high. And that higher high, I expect on the daily time frame, really to test this upper median line. Not upper median, but upper warning line up here. Now, at that point, once this market has finished making its higher high, that's when I think Bitcoin is going to become extremely bearish, and this temporary correction on the Bitcoin chart is going to finish. So this is our correction on Bitcoin. Let's go on the hourly chart. As I said, C wave is probably going to come up to around 6,600. I think that probably will happen in tandem with CGC finishing its top and then coming down. And that will give, once CGC crashes, that will certainly give Bitcoin enough energy to break below that 5,900 level, which we've all been waiting for around here. Yeah, but again, why did we see this? Another explanation other than this just being a C wave to explain why this price shot up here. Let's take a note what time it happened. So this is UK time, so it was 7:45 in the evening yesterday. Okay, now let's have a look what happened in CGC. So it's around this point, and you can see CGC did the same thing, massive wick. Okay, so it's just really correlating with CGC. Now the interesting thing is you can now start using fundamentals for predicting Bitcoin price, because generally there's a lot of fundamentals surrounding wheat stocks. So a lot of information about whether it's going to be legalized in various countries, whether it can be used for medicinal reasons, and it's often talked about in the media in that sense. So any story relating to that is going to have a big impact on CGC, which will have a big impact on Bitcoin. Now, just a little bit of that I did a little bit of reading. I'm not a big fundamentals guy, so don't take every word I say for granted when I talk about fundamentals. But what I've been reading is that essentially we look at the market in the US because that's the biggest place for any market really. But marijuana is considered a Schedule 1 substance in the US. So putting it alongside heroin, LSD. Yeah, so it's illegal. It's the strictest restrictions that they put on any drugs, similar to that of, as I say, heroin and LSD, which means it can't even be used for medicinal purposes. For that reason, companies can't get financial backing, they can't get loans, and it also means that they can't apply for corporate tax rather than traditional tax, traditional income tax. So it really impacts upon business growth. However, and it also means they can't accept credit payments. So really they had to rely on just cash payments, but Bitcoin has found a way around that. Bitcoin is a form of credit that can be used to make payments for cannabis products, and it's still considered allowed. And so there is one company, it's called Potterbit. Pretty sure it was Potterbit. So I think it's spelled like that, essentially. And this is a company that allows for payments to be made in cryptocurrency to buy weed-based products. And they are actually, in fact, helping the government because they do a lot of checks. They do background checks. They don't just allow anyone to buy these cannabis-based products. They take ID, which is encrypted, and also they limit purchases to, I think, $150 per purchase. So that essentially prevents any money laundering that may be happening between Bitcoin and cannabis and the drug industry. So yeah, that's why you see this strong correlation. So this is the fundamental explanation between why you have a strong correlation between crypto and cannabis. So essentially, crypto is the main payment system for these cannabis-based products. Yeah, so that's your fundamentals. As I say, I'm not a big fundamental guy, so it probably sounded a bit sketchy, that explanation. But essentially, I've shown you very clearly there's a very positive correlation between Bitcoin and weed stocks. So that's all we really need to know. The explanation, it does not matter. But certainly once weed stocks top out, I expect Bitcoin to increase its bearish looking picture and probably break below that 5,900 level. As I say, we've hit this Fibonacci ratio already, but as I say, we may just make a slight wick above to test this upper warning line, which hasn't quite been tested here. Just making that final wave 5 as we looked at it on the shorter time frames, which could be enough to bring Bitcoin down even further. All right, so I thought that was interesting to find this correlation. It's always interesting to find correlating charts. For example, when you're trading Forex, it's good to look at the cable, the euro dollar, the dollar basket. They're all correlated. Even gold is correlated with dollar yen. It's good to look at correlating markets because when one market is looking a little bit difficult to interpret, a correlating market may be a lot clearer. And certainly this is looking pretty clear to me. The fact that it's testing this upper warning line, it's hit a fib level, looking very bearish, and I expect Bitcoin to also be very bearish very shortly. So that's it in summary. I hope you've enjoyed the content. All right, take care, guys.